Lifted to left. Deep to the corner. Gone!
Chase that.
Two-run shot. Salvador Perez. His team leading 14th of the season. And the Royals open up a 6-0 lead.
And the Royals finishing off a 3-4 series against the AL Central leading Cleveland Guardians on Sunday. They win 6-2 in the end. As you heard there, they got the 6-0 lead, and the Guardians scored 2 runs in the 8th, and wrapping up a 6-2 final score there, as the Royals again take 3 of 4. We'll have more on that coming up here on the Sports Ticket. It's brought to you by Kiefer Brothers Automotive in Beloit. They're just south of the courthouse, and you can check them out online at KieferBrothers.com. They're your home team for fast and friendly auto repair. Kiefer Brothers Automotive in Beloit. All right, coming up on the Sports Ticket, we'll have, again, more on the Royals and Major League Baseball and how that's going. Baseball is really the only major sport going on right now that has a lot of interest. Obviously, the WNBA has picked up a lot of interest here this season with Caitlin Clark moving to the WNBA from Iowa and all the hype train that is around that. So that's obviously something that's going on right now. And there's also some soccer going on. The Olympics will be coming up. Wimbledon starts today as well in tennis. And so there's still other stuff going on, but as far as what people really track and watch and keep track of, baseball is really the big sport that's still going on here now as we await the start of training camp and for football teams later this month and then preseason next month, and football gets underway early September. So we'll look forward to all that and get you ready for another season there too. So again, We'll talk about all that coming up here on the Sports Ticket. We also have some a look at local sports as we will try to find a recap that's suitable for the Shrine Bowl, which took place on Saturday in Emporia, and also some area sports figures have been voted into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. So we'll have that also, and have a chance to give you an update on how everything's going with the NBA offseason as free agency is starting to get underway as well. So that's where we're at with what's going on here this weekend, and a recap of what happened over the weekend is what I mean to say. And so, that's all coming up here on the Sports Ticket. It's hard for me to find a story because, and I wasn't there, I didn't have a chance, I was busy, I didn't have a chance to watch the Shrine Bowl, but it's kind of difficult to find a story that has the details just in general. Most of the stories that I'm finding are about, if I'm finding a specific story from Emporia or Topeka, that it just seems to be like they're just about the teams that are involved in that area, and nothing like real big that has everything on it. So we can tell you, though, that the Shrine Bowl took place on Saturday in Emporia, and it was the East. I've seen 2 different scores on this as well. Let's see if Dan has some. Dan Lucero, my buddy there in Topeka. Let's see if he's got anything that is worth it. Not really. He doesn't really have any updates. He just was calling the game there in Topeka, so no real updates on his page. So I'm just going to go with what I've got from the Emporia Gazette, I guess is what I'll do. The Emporia was the host, so maybe they have a better look at how everything went there on Saturday in the 51st Kansas Shrine Bowl. As it was at Welch Stadium, the East came away with a 36-25 victory over the West. It was the East's first win in the game since 2018. The West team opened the game on offense and took a lead. McPherson's Blaze Hoover at quarterback, and they ended up leading. The East then scored 2 touchdowns after that, though, to take a 14-3 lead, and then they led 20-3, and that would be the score at halftime. A 73-yard touchdown pass, or actually there was a 20-yard touchdown run by Clay Center's Brody Hayes. It was actually a blocked punt, returned 20 yards by Clay Center's Brody Hayes, so not too far away from us. He cut the East lead to 20-10, and then there was a 73-yard touchdown reception for the East, which made it 28-10. Also, Jacksonville Cheney had a touchdown from Jay Brooks Kappelman of Liberal, made it 28-17 with 8:25 left. West had a turnover, made it 36-17 after the East scored and got a 2-point conversion with 23 seconds left in the third quarter. And then in the fourth, the East gave up a 15-yard touchdown as the West got in with 36-23 was the score. And, yeah, 36-23 was the final. There was 36-25 up in the top, and I was confused because I had seen 36-23. So, yeah, 36-23 the final as the East gets the win. West threw an interception with 1:25 left, and, they did force a safety, so it was 36-25. So, there it is, 36-25, the safety at the end must have been missed by the first score that I saw, and the West gets the win in the Shrine Bowl, 36-23. And Clay Center's Brody Hayes was the West MVP. And that kind of wraps up what happened in the Shrine Bowl. We didn't have any immediate area players that were playing in the Shrine Bowl. Daniel Kerr of Southeast Saline, Loden West from Ellsworth, and also Keegan Beams from Concordia all played in the game for the West, and also Mitch Gebhardt, the head coach of Southeast Saline, was an assistant coach for the West squad as well. But they came up short for the first time since 2018. It was the East with the win, 36-25, the final there on Saturday night in Emporia. So that's a look at what happened in the Shrine Bowl on Saturday. We'll move on. We got this yesterday. The Kansas State High School Activities Association, the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame, sending their 2024 inductions. The class of 2024 at the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame was announced, and they will be inducted on Sunday, October 13th in Topeka. This class includes 7 individuals who have ties to Olympic competition, including a gold medalist, Paralympic medalist, and the only American to be named a head track and field starter for 2 Olympic Games. Also includes national champion coaches, collegiate champions, All-Americans, and American record holders. The chairman of the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame, Jim Dunning Jr., said this is an accomplished group, and one the Hall of Fame is extremely proud to recognize. They bring a considerable diversity of backgrounds and talents to the Hall. In an Olympic year, I believe it was wonderful to shine a light on 7 inductees with Olympic connections. This year's class will bring the total number of inductees to 340, the first class in 1961. And again, they will be honored on October 13th in Topeka. Kansas Sports Hall of Fame inductees this year are Dave Bingham. He was NAIA National Champion Baseball coach at Emporia State, head coach for College World Series participant Kansas. Eric Kennard, and it's fun to say this, Olympic gold medalist high jumper at Kansas State. He was a silver medalist at the 2012 London Games, and he finished second to a Russian competitor who was then stripped of his gold medal for doping. So he was using performance-enhancing drugs and lost his gold medal, and Eric Kennard just recently got that gold medal given to him. So Eric Kennard was a K-State high jumper, national champion, and he is an Olympic gold medalist high jumper from K-State. Melvin Lister was a national champion in long jump from Leavenworth High School, Butler County, and Arkansas. Mark Mangino, national assistant football coach of the year at Oklahoma and head coach of the Orange Bowl champion Kansas, is going into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. Ron Nugent is swimming gold medalist in World University Games, an American record holder at Kansas. Kelly Rankin is the only American to be the head starter for 2 Olympic Games. Scott Russell is an NCAA champion, Olympic qualifier for Canada in the javelin at Kansas. And Will Shields, native Kansan, 14-year NFL veteran for the Kansas City Chiefs, member of the college and NFL Hall of Fames as well. Sean Snyder, consensus All-American punter and national special teams coach of the year at Kansas State once. Obviously the son of Bill Snyder. Mark Turgeon, All-State basketball player at Topeka Hayden, 4-time NCAA tournament qualifier at Kansas, Missouri Valley and Big Ten champion at Wichita State and Maryland as a coach and conference coach of the year. And 2 local connections. Kevin Saunders, bronze medalist and record holder for U.S. and Paralympic Games at the Downs native, graduated in 1974. More on him coming up. And Annette Wiles, 2-time NAIA basketball All-American NAIA tournament MVP at Fort Hays State. Just a small bio on her from Sylvan Grove High School, I believe from Hunter, and was also inducted and will be inducted into this year's 2024 class, the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. So congratulations to all those folks. We can tell you a little bit more about Eric Kennard, 2012 Olympic gold medalist, 7.7 3/4 was his number there, and he finished 6th at the 2016 Olympics, bronze medalist World Indoor Championships 2014 and 2016. Career best jump was 7.9.5. Back-to-back NCAA outdoor championships in 2012 and 2013 as well. And indoor All-American for 4 years, outdoor All-American for 4 years, Midwest Field Athlete of the Year for indoor 3 times and outdoor once. Eric Kennard is a name that a lot of people will know if they followed what was going on back then. And I wanted to just kind of pass a little bit more about him. Again, he did finish as a silver medalist with that jump of 7.7 3/4 initially, but again, due to the Russian competitor that won the gold and was stripped of the gold, Eric Kennard was awarded that gold medal. So Mark Mangino obviously began as an assistant coach and went through the ranks and had KU where he served as head coach there from 2002 to 2009, leading them to a 50-48 record, 4 bowl games in 2007. Game played in 2008 Orange Bowl win over Virginia Tech. The Jayhawks finished number 7 in the final Associated Press poll that year. They were ranked as high as number 2. So obviously Mark Mangino is of note as well. Will Shields was born in Fort Riley, Kansas, and had a great career at Nebraska with the Chiefs. As we mentioned, he's a College Football Hall of Fame member and also an NFL Hall of Fame member, or Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's a member of the NFL's All-Decade Team of the 2000s, Chiefs' 40th Anniversary Team. Again, College Football and Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was the NFL Walter Payton Man of the Year in 2003. Sean Snyder is an All-American punter at K-State. First father-son combo to be selected to the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame with his dad, Bill. He spent 26 seasons as a coach and administrator at K-State. Obviously, he spent some time at USC, and then this last year he was an advisor with KU, and he's also coached at Illinois in his past. He was named the K-State Football Ring of Honor in 2002 and into the K-State Athletic Hall of Fame in 2016. Mark Turgeon had a great career at Wichita State, head coach 2000 to 2007. He made it to 1 NCAA tournament, 4 NCAA tournaments overall. He made it once at Wichita State, 3 NITs, when coached at Texas A&M and then Maryland. And, he is through 2021 at Maryland. So Mark Turgeon, Kansas is where he played. He's at 479 wins in his career as a head coach and first basketball player to compete in an NCAA tournament, including in 4 NCAA tournaments at Kansas while he was there from 86, and that included the 86 Final Four. Big all-freshman team in 84. So 84, 85, 86, and 87. It looks like he competed in the NCAA tournament 4 straight times. So those are some notes on some of those people that have been elected into the Hall of Fame. Now we focus on the area athletes, and I got to be completely honest with you. I'm surprised that Kevin Saunders is not already in the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. He's from Downs. A lot of people over there would know this story. Kevin began competing in Paralympic-style events following injuries suffered in an explosion in 1981 when he was working at a elevator in Texas, and that explosion happened, and he became paralyzed from the chest down, but he didn't let that hinder his life going forward, right? He's a 2-time Paralympic bronze medalist. He won the bronze medal in the men's pentathlon in the 1988 Seoul Paralympic Games and competed in the discus and javelin in 1988. He won the bronze medal in the men's pentathlon in 1992 Barcelona Paralympic Games, and also competed in the discus, javelin, and shot put in 1992. He competed in the USA Games, Pan American Games, named to the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition in 1989 by George H.W. Bush and reappointed to the council by Bill Clinton. He became a motivational speaker and author while competing, named the 1995 K-State Department of Agricultural Economics Distinguished Alumni, and inducted in the Adaptive Sports USA Hall of Fame in 2016. Kevin Saunders, again, a lot of people around this area will know the story. You see the signs over in Downs, home of Kevin Saunders. You've seen those at times, and he was a 1974 graduate of Downs High School and K-State in 1978. Kevin Saunders, if you haven't heard his story, I don't have time to read the whole thing, but if you get a chance to read Kevin's story and read up about him, obviously, as I mentioned a bit ago, he's a guy that never gave up and always tried to use the affliction that he had to his best abilities. He's 68 now. He was a federal inspector for the USDA, and the accident happened April of 1981 at a grain elevator in Corpus Christi, Texas. It wounded him severely, left him in a wheelchair, and paralyzed from the chest down. So after graduating from college, he became a federal inspector for the USDA, and then the explosion happened on April 7th of 1981 at the age of 23 for Kevin. And then he went through all the things to get himself back where he needed to be, and had a great athletic career in the Paralympic Games in 1988 and 1992. Kevin Saunders, again, is a now Kansas Sports Hall of Fame member. He'll be inducted in October, along with Annette Wiles from Sylvan Grove High School. Graduated in 1987, Fort Hays State in 1991. She played at Fort Hays State. She coached a lot of years as well. She led Fort Hays State to the 1991 NAIA National Championship, 34-2. Two-time All-American selection, named the most valuable player of the 1991 NAIA tournament. Averaged 20.5 points per game during her career. She set program's career points of 2,407 and rebounds record at 961, while also setting records for field goals made, field goals attempted, field goal percentage, free throws made, free throws attempted, and blocked shots. Not all those records still stand today, but she did set those while she was playing and active. A member of the Fort Hays State and Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference Hall of Fame. Enjoyed a long career as a head coach as well, a career mark of 409 and 227 at 643 percentage, coaching 7 years at Bethany, 8 years at Fort Hays State, and 7 years at Minnesota Duluth. Led 3 teams to NCAA tournament appearances, including 2005 at Fort Hays State, 2010 and 12 at Minnesota Duluth. Led Bethany to 4 NAIA national tournament appearances as well while she was coaching there. Annette Wiles, Sylvan Grove graduate, named and to be inducted into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. So very cool to have 2 local connections that are in this year's class, the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. I hope to have that story posted with everything on it at KDCountry94.com sometime later today, and you can read about it if you missed any of it here this morning on the Sports Ticket. 9:26 our time here on the Sports Ticket on this Monday, July 1st. Sports Ticket brought to you by Kiever Brothers Automotive in Beloit. And when we return, we'll tell you more about the Royals and how they finished up this week and give you an update on some baseball standings and the NBA offseason starting hot and heavy already. We'll talk about that here on the Sports Ticket after this 30-second break.
I'm Elijah at Kiever Brothers Automotive in Beloit. Hot weather is here. Is the air conditioning in your vehicle nice and cold? If not, we can help. We have the training and equipment to service vehicle AC systems of all types, including the new refrigerant and late model vehicles. We offer same-day service on air conditioning with no appointment necessary. So don't sweat it out. Give us a shout. Fast, friendly service for your air conditioner can be found at Kiever Brothers Automotive, just south of the courthouse in Beloit, or on the web at KieverBrothers.com.
Hey, our webmaster Derek must be listening to me because he texted me and said he just posted the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame story. So that's up on the website if you missed any of that, KDCountry94.com, SunflowerStateRadio.com. We always appreciate Derek and what he does for us here at the stations as well. Again, it is 9:27 on this Monday, July 1st. And the Royals picking up a win yesterday over the Cleveland Guardians. It was a big game for Seth Lugo for Kansas City as he was outstanding throughout the entire contest, and he ended up with 6 innings pitched. For some reason, I clicked a link, and then it took me back to a different page. Seth Lugo with the win, 6 innings, 4 hits, struck out 10. He had 93 pitches, and then the bullpen took care of the rest. It was maybe a bit dicey there in the 8th inning when the Guardians got a couple runs, but otherwise they were able to finish it off. And here's Royals manager Matt Quatrero on the win over the Guardians on Sunday.
It's really hard.
And actually on Seth Lugo as well.
It's really hard to quantify or come up with new ways to talk about how good he's been, but we know how challenging that lineup is, and with all those lefties in there, for him to be able to get in on some of them, stay away from some of them, go up, go down, whatever he had to do, he was executing.
Definitely, and the Royals were executing a great weekend for Kansas City, and you know, we've talked about what the Royals are doing here this summer, and maybe ahead of the spring and summer, ahead of their timetable. They're 47-39 after yesterday's win. Cleveland dropped to 52-30, so Cleveland still has a good lead on the Royals here in the division standings. But that when you can take 3 out of 4, that's going to help you out a lot moving forward. Not only maybe in these division standings, but also in the wild card standings, and we'll update you on all that coming up here after we chat about this weekend series. The Royals won the first game 2-1 on Friday. It was a low-scoring battle. Cleveland led 1-0 in the fifth, and then the Royals got 2 runs in the bottom of the sixth actually, that was on Thursday, and ended up with that 2-1 win. So they felt good to start out that series. We talked briefly about that on Friday on the Sports Ticket, and so the Royals would get that victory. And then on Friday, they had a very good offensive game and jumped out to a very early lead. Cleveland actually scored 1 in the top of the first, but the Royals got 2 on a couple homers from Salvador Perez and Hunter Renfroe in the second. They scored 3 more in the third, and they had another in the fourth, another in the fifth. By the end of the fifth inning, they were up 7-1, and they ended up winning it 10-3. Vinny Pasquantino 2-run homer in the eighth inning capped off the scoring there on Friday night in a 10-3 win over the Guardians. Saturday didn't go as well. They lost 7-2 as they actually had a 2-1 lead after 2 innings, but then it was all Cleveland the rest of the way, 2 in the fourth, 3 in the fifth, another in the seventh, as Cleveland won 7-2 in Game 3 on Saturday. And then yesterday, as we mentioned, the Royals winning 6-2. One of the things that we've talked about here this summer, as we've gotten into the summer and before in the spring, was that the Royals had been winning games that they should win against teams that they're definitely better than, and they've done a very good job of getting those wins. And then they had a stretch where they just kind of were not getting the wins necessary to be able to say that at the moment. They had lost 2 of 3 to the Athletics. They were swept by the Rangers. They lost a game to the Marlins, and you're sitting here thinking like, oh, what are we doing? But now they've won 4 out of 5, including 3 out of 4 against the Guardians. They've actually won 5 of their last 7 games as well. So, it is what we talk about with baseball all the time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You're up and down. Things are going to go well for you at times. You're inevitably going to have a stretch where you're not playing your best baseball. You're going to lose some games that you probably shouldn't lose, and so that's the case there. And you're in a spot where you just got to figure out how to make it work through a 162 game season, and the Royals are right now in a very good spot. Seth Lugo has a Major League Baseball high 11th win. Some of the numbers for Lugo, by the way, I'm going to pull this up. My cousin actually sent a tweet, which is helping me do my job here today as well in a group chat that we have. But Seth Lugo is ranking first in the MLB, not just the American League, but first place in the major leagues with a 2.17 ERA. He has the most innings pitched, 116. He's first with 14 quality starts and first with 11 wins. Seth Lugo's been outstanding, and that's why when you heard from Matt Quatrero there that it's hard to come up with all the words and the right adjectives to tell you how good Seth Lugo has been this year and how well he's pitched since coming over from San Diego last year. He's in the first year of his time here with Kansas City, and he's making it pay off. When he came in, a lot of people were talking about Cole Reagans was possibly a Cy Young candidate for the Royals this year. That's Seth Lugo right now, and I don't know where the voting would go right now, but you would think there'd be heavy consideration, and I don't know. I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but those are a lot of very, very good numbers, and the Royals are also winning. So that puts Seth Lugo right in or at the top of the discussion for the American League Cy Young if that was decided today. Obviously, we're 1st of July, so there's plenty of time left. You get to July, August, and September, 3 full months of the season left, and actually almost 4. 3 full months of the regular season, but you get it. October is when you're going to play postseason ball, and sometimes into the very, very early November, depending on how the schedule goes and how long those series last. But 3 full months of this season still left, so you can't get too high up, don't want to get too far down, but you do understand that you're in a spot where you have a chance to have a lot of success here and can continue that success. And if you do that, you're putting yourself in a very, very good spot to possibly win a Cy Young if you're Seth Lugo. So the Royals, again, getting that win 6-2 yesterday over the Guardians, taking 3 of 4 from Cleveland. Cleveland was a team that was actually pretty hot coming into that series. And then the Royals were able to pick up some very, very key wins. And it's been a great go here for the Royals over the weekend to, if nothing else, to get them back in the headspace of winning and put them in a spot where they feel more comfortable after taking, again, 5 of the last 7 and 3 of 4 from the Guardians over the weekend. The Royals have today off. Tampa Bay comes in to start a 3-game series coming up at 7:10 tomorrow night. The Rays are 42-42, so right at 500. Tampa Bay and Kansas City 7:10 tomorrow night for the first game of 3 here early in the week. And then 4th of July will come as well, and The Royals will finish that series on the 4th of July, and then they'll head out to Colorado to take on the Rockies in Denver this weekend, 5th, 6th, and 7th. So they'll have another Monday off before going to St. Louis and having 3 with Boston before the All-Star break hits on July 15th. So, that's where we're at with the Royals, again with a record after the win yesterday of 47 and 39. They're still a game behind the Twins, actually, for second place in the AL Central, as the Guardians are in first place at 52 and 37, ahead of the Royals, 6 ahead of the Twins. In first place are the Guardians, but again, Cleveland's 6-4 in their last 10. The Royals are 5-5. Minnesota's also 6-4 in their last 10. So all 3 of these teams that are toward the top of the AL Central here. Obviously the Royals and Guardians were playing each other, so that affects each other's record. And the Twins have been playing kind of the same type of ball right now as both of those teams as well. But the lead had been built, so Cleveland still has a 6-game advantage on Minnesota, 7 on Kansas City. The Orioles are in first place in the AL East at 53 and 31, just by 3 points of a percentage over the Yankees, who are 54 and 32. They're tied, but technically not, with the percentage lead there for the Orioles in the East. And then in the West, the Mariners are 47 and 39, 3.5 games ahead of the Astros for first place there in the AL West. In the National League East, the Phillies are 55 and 29. They have the best record in baseball at the moment. They're 8 games ahead, of the Braves, who are 46 and 36. Maybe it'll be the opposite of what's happened recently, where the Braves win the division somewhat comfortably at times, and then the Phillies beat them in the playoffs. Maybe the Phillies will be a comfortable division winner this year, and the Braves will beat them in the playoffs. We'll see what happens there. But again, an 8-game lead for the Phillies in the NL East. And then NL Central, the Brewers are 50 and 34. They're up 6.5 on the Cardinals, who are 43 and 40. And then the NL West, the Dodgers 52 and 33, ahead of the Padres, who are in second place, 7.5 games behind at 46 and 42. So those are your standings as far as the divisions are concerned. Looking at the wild card standings, the Royals are back into this thing. They do hold the final wild card spot at the moment. The Yankees have the top spot, 7 games ahead of anybody else. The Twins are 7 games ahead of being in the wild card. The Twins are 1 game ahead of being in the wild card at 47 and 37, and the Royals have that last spot at 47 and 39. Red Sox are a game and a half behind them at 44 and 39, and then in the National League, the Braves have the top wild card spot, followed by the Padres. Cardinals are 43 and 40. We have the final wild card, 2 games ahead right now of the Mets, who are 40 and 41. So again, an update on Major League Baseball and how everything's going there. Nothing really new to update other than what the Royals are doing, and Major League Baseball, that's the update. All right, NBA offseason is where we go next, and it's always funny because I hear a lot of people, and I've kind of thought it before in my mind, that the NBA offseason might be more fun than the NBA regular season. And the key for me is the word regular, right? It's an 82-game season. Even if my team was on TV, if I'm a Spurs fan, if the Spurs were on TV every single night, I don't think I'm so busy too during the winter, obviously with high school basketball and sports wrestling and everything going on like that as well, that when you look at it and you get into it, it's like, I don't have time to watch them. But even if every game was on TV for the Spurs and I did have time to watch, probably wouldn't watch all 82 games, just to be completely honest. The regular season NBA is just not that fun to watch. Being at the games, I've only been to one, and it was Michael Jordan's last game in Denver in 2003 as far as regular season. So I can't tell you what it feels like to be at a regular season NBA game, because the place in Denver was, I'm not going to say it was hype that night. The Nuggets actually won. That's back when they were bad, right before they got Carmelo Anthony in 2003. But the atmosphere was great because there was an aura in the arena because Michael Jordan was there playing his last game in Denver. So that was the only regular season game I've been to. I've been to 2 playoff games, one in Memphis when the Spurs were playing, another one in San Antonio when the Spurs were playing. They were shorthanded and taking on a Warriors team that was just way better than them, and they ended up losing that series. They lost that game. The Memphis game I was at, Kawhi Leonard went off for the Spurs in a double overtime game. Memphis crowd was unreal. They were charged up and electric, and it was so fun to be at playoff games. So that's why I say that, right? I think the NBA offseason is more fun than the NBA regular season. It is not more fun than the season as a whole because the postseason is part of that. And as a Spurs fan, I've seen my team, well, since I've been a fan, I've never strayed away from telling everybody that I was a bandwagon fan with the Spurs back in 2003, but it was not like the sexy team to be jumping on in 2003. You had the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq. You had the Kings who were trying to come up and be something at that time. And so, there were plenty of teams I could have picked. Basically, where I was at was like, Jordan's retiring. I need to find somebody else to cheer for, whether that be a team or a player or whatever it is. I really never stopped being a Bulls fan because I was a Bulls fan with Michael Jordan, and I really never stopped being a Bulls fan until about 2008 when they made the decision. It was the right decision, by the way, but in my headspace, I was going to be excited for Michael Beasley to go play with the Bulls, and then they passed on him with the number 1 pick and took Derrick Rose, and Michael Beasley went to the Heat with the number 2 pick. So that was my spot where it's like, I really don't have a whole lot of connection to the Bulls anymore. Michael Jordan was my connection to the Bulls and a lot of people's connection to the Bulls if you grew up in the 90s. So it was like, yeah, I'm done with that. But in 2003, I was kind of in my headspace. I'm like, I might need a different team to cheer for. And my buddy was a huge NBA fan back then. And so I started watching the Spurs. I used to argue with him about Kevin Garnett being better than Tim Duncan just to have fun. And just to get him riled up because he was somewhat of a Spurs fan. His dad was a bigger Spurs fan than he was, but I started watching how the Spurs played basketball and team mentality, team basketball. So I've been able to see my favorite team in the NBA, well, technically win 10 championships because the Bulls were my favorite team in the 90s. Listen, ride that bandwagon if you can, if you don't have your local teams to support, right? The Kings were gone from Kansas City before I ever dreamed of cheering for them. So I was a Bulls fan. They won 6 titles. And then I saw my next favorite basketball team win 4 championships. I was very invested by 2005 when they won their 3rd out of the 5 that they have, and their 2nd out of the 4 that I've seen them win as a fan. So by 2005, I was pretty invested, and obviously I'm all in because I've not jumped off the bandwagon over the last few years when things have not been going well for the Spurs. So the reason I would say that the NBA offseason is more fun than the NBA regular season is because the regular season is kind of dull at times, 82 games, but the offseason, there's fireworks going on almost all the time, especially at the start of it, man. These people obviously have had, not the players probably, but because technically it's probably not legal, but the agents have had contact with teams and stuff like that. They're working out deals before the start of the offseason even hits. But the free agency window did open on Sunday at 6. Teams and players are already making moves and what could be an impactful summer of deals and contract extensions and just a lot of stuff going on. And it seems like each year that passes, it's earlier and earlier that these teams are, boom, they're in on it and going. And so I'm just going to kind of look at this timeline here of what we have. James Harden, there's actually a lot that has happened. See, restricted free agent Patrick Williams in agreement to return to the Bulls, 5-year, $90 million deal. The Detroit Pistons are hiring J.B. Bickerstaff, by the way, as well for to be the franchise's new head coach after 2 straight postseason appearances and a semifinal appearance in the Eastern Conference with the Cavaliers there for 5 seasons. I've talked about this enough. He took them deeper in the playoffs than anybody ever has since before LeBron James was part of the Cavaliers, and they had the runs while he was on the team. But not good enough. We'll see you later. And he is now headed to the Pistons, J.B. Bickerstaff, to be their head coach. LeBron James has told the Lakers he would accept a pay cut if they can find an impact player for their mid-level exception, which is roughly $13 million. I'm saying whether that's Klay Thompson, James Harden, but things changed since that story came out. Says the Bulls are struggling to offload Zach LaVine in a trade. Obi Toppin intending to sign a 4-year, $60 million contract to stay with the Pacers. Knicks are looking at another player to their trade with the Brooklyn Nets, possibly in that package that brought Mikal Bridges to the the New York Knicks. Free agent guard Max Christie intending to sign a 4-year, $32 million deal with the Lakers. Orlando Magic have been a team to watch for Isaiah Hartenstein and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Nothing done there yet. But the Golden State Warriors, this is probably where things kind of start with some of the news that started last night. The Golden State Warriors are waiving veteran point guard Chris Paul. He had a $30 million salary that would have become guaranteed if he was on the roster past yesterday. So the Warriors waived him. And Paul becomes an unrestricted free agent heading into his 20th season. And last night, that appears to be resolved, as it sounds like Chris Paul will sign a 1-year, $11 million deal with my San Antonio Spurs. I'm excited about it. Chris Paul's not the same player that he once was, obviously. He's a 39-year-old point guard. He's been in the league for 20 years. He does not have the same physical capabilities that he had early in his career. Nobody does. But one thing I have always liked about Chris Paul is the way that he competes and his veteran leadership with the teams that he's on. And you can look at what these teams have done and then look at what happens when he's hurt, when he was competing at a higher level with the Rockets and then the Suns and how things go there. But one of the things that I don't think with the Spurs being a very, very young team, one of the things with Victor Wembanyama and having the Rookie of the Year season and getting some of these younger guys, they got the point guard Stephon Castle, or combo guard Stephon Castle from UConn in the draft with the 4th pick, and so they've added some talent there and a young talent that Chris Paul can work with. Guys that are already on this team: Jeremy Sohan, Keldon Johnson. These are all names you probably don't know. Devin Vassell. Probably a lot of names none of y'all know, except for Victor Wembanyama. But as a Spurs fan, I'm super excited because I don't think you can really quantify until he gets there what the veteran leadership will do from Chris Paul, regardless of what he does physically on the court. So I'm excited about it. He can teach these younger guys along with one of the best coaches that's ever done it in Greg Popovich, and I think they'll get along very well and can be a very important part of what the Spurs do in the future. James Harden is planning to return to the Clippers on a 2-year, $70 million deal. And Paul George will not be a part of that, it doesn't look like, and we'll have more on that. Kevin Love returning to the Heat on a 2-year deal. Also, former Bulls center Andre Drummond heading to the Sixers on a 2-year, $10 million deal. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, here we go, 3-year, $66 million deal with the Orlando Magic is what they're talking about there. 76ers are going to be the benefit of Paul George. And we'll talk about that here. I'm going to wait until the last bit to talk about that. Jonas Valanciunas, I don't know how to say his name, to be completely honest with you. He's agreed to a 3-year, $30 million deal with the Wizards. Mason Plumlee, a 1-year deal with the Phoenix Suns. And Klay Thompson's probably going to be out there. We'll see how that all goes with Klay. There's talk of possibly the Mavericks being involved in that. The Mavericks have reached former Mavericks forward Derek Jones Jr. and the Clippers have reached a 3-year, $30 million deal. So that could affect what Klay Thompson does and possibly heading to Dallas. The Sixers and All-Star guard Tyrese Maxey this morning agreed to a 5-year, $204 million maximum contract extension. Maxey was in the All-Star game for the first time last year, averaged 26 points, 6 assists, 3.5 rebounds a game. And he will be joined by Paul George. He signed a 4-year, $212 million max contract. So he joins the 76ers. It includes a player option for 27-28 season. Brings George back to the Eastern Conference and pairs him with Tyrese Maxey, as we mentioned, to be part of this thing with the 76ers with Joel Embiid as well. So this is a pretty big deal here. Paul George leaving the Clippers. And, one of the things with the Clippers is all the things they've been dealing with. And, listen, I don't think that if they have everybody healthy and playing, that it's just kind of like the Nets when they had Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and James Harden. It's like you got too many people and only one basketball. And James Harden's never been the one guy that puts anybody over the top as far as being a championship contender and actually winning championships. It seems like he's kind of a plague to teams sometimes. I'm not saying that it's not true probably, but it just feels like that at times because there's postseason games where he'll disappear and won't be ready to play. So Paul George not going to be part of that in L.A. with the Clippers anymore as he reached a 4-year deal with the 76ers. As you look at Paul George, he's had years where he's been out with injury and missed some games. This past year he did play in 74 games. He started all of them, averaged 22.5 points, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, a steal and a half as well. Paul George is a perennial all-star, and obviously somebody big that Philly's adding to their roster here that can help them have more success and possibly, vault toward the top with Embiid if he can stay healthy. And then Paul George, Tyrese Maxey. I think that's more of a, the word is always big three, which has evolved in the NBA as far as what that means. But Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, that's a formidable group, and I think it's a group that can understand how to score, but also understand that I'm not the only guy that can score. So I don't know, for some reason I think that would be something that would work out well. We'll just have to see if that actually comes to fruition or not. One other note, Tobias Harris, veteran forward, signing a 2-year, $52 million deal with the Pistons. So, free agency goes wild, man. Once it starts, it's like boom, boom, boom. It goes fast. There's a lot of deals within the first day or two, maybe the third day as well, and then things slow down a little bit, and there's probably always that one guy that you're like, man, where's he going to go? Why is he not signed anywhere yet? And sometimes it would be because maybe there's some red flags and maybe some health issues or some, locker room cohesion issues that people don't want to deal with, and he doesn't end up going where you thought he might. I could see Klay Thompson being that guy here in the offseason, just waiting it out and seeing what the best option would be. I'm not going to guarantee that. Klay Thompson might sign somewhere this afternoon and say, no, I'm good. I've found somewhere to go. But it is always interesting to watch this NBA offseason and how quick it goes. So I would say so far early on in the NBA offseason that the 76ers are winners, getting the extension to Tyrese Maxey and signing Paul George to a 4-year max contract as well. So I would say that team has put themselves in a very good position. And as a Spurs fan, I can't be disappointed with the signing of Chris Paul. And I think, as we go on here, there may be a trade that would happen with the Spurs that might bring somebody in. I agree with some of the people that talk about, somebody's going to want to hitch their wagon to Victor Wembanyama and play in San Antonio. San Antonio is not always a spot where you can attract free agents. There's not a lot to do in San Antonio that people would say as much maybe as Dallas or Houston if you would go there in Texas. And the big draw for Texas is there's no state income tax, right? And so that's why a lot of the sports figures, professional athletes don't mind signing a contract in Texas because there's no state income tax. So the Spurs have actually benefited from that in the past. But otherwise, there's not been a lot of incentive to come to San Antonio over probably the last, ever since we're probably 2017. I'm trying to remember the year that Kawhi got hurt in the playoffs and it derailed kind of the path of the franchise for 5, 6, 7 years, and that's when everything fell apart and they were not good anymore. So, but I do think, and Victor Wembanyama, by the way, talk about the Spurs because Victor Wembanyama transcends just what's happening in San Antonio with my favorite team. And this is a guy that came in flying in the NBA, and no matter where he went, there was going to be a lot of talk about him, and I'd talk a lot about him as well. But the fact that he is on my favorite team makes it easier for me to talk about. But I do think there will be a free agent or a trade that somebody wants to happen, that they actually want to come to San Antonio and be part of this build-up. And it really is a rebuild that started with the drafting of Victor Wembanyama. Probably started a little bit before that by stocking up draft picks, stockpiling draft picks, and being able to take on some contracts, shed some payroll there for other teams and get some picks in return and some cash in return or whatever that might be. So it really started probably a couple years before they actually drafted Victor Wembanyama, but actually on the court, that's when it started. And, the season didn't go great for the Spurs record-wise last year, but obviously you could see that they're improving, and Wembanyama had an outstanding rookie year, unanimous rookie of the year in the NBA. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some bigger name end up with the Spurs that you might not expect, whether that be a trade or via free agency here over the offseason. So, yeah, the NBA offseason, hot and heavy, underway. I'm going to refresh this, make sure there's nothing new since I first updated on this. And there's a good chance that Utah might move Lauri Markkanen, the Jazz forward, or the Jazz are fielding trade offers for Markkanen. There's teams that are trying to trade for him, so he could get traded as well. That's the latest update here in the NBA free agency world. So a lot going on there. We'll continue to keep track of it and chat about it here on the Sports Ticket. So, again, that wraps up that portion of the show here today. Wimbledon underway in tennis, and things got started here today. We'll see if there's any crazy upsets yet. Doesn't look like there's any matches actually finished yet on the men's side. Actually, there are. They're all on the bottom. Daniil Medvedev, the 5th seed, 8th seed Casper Ruud, both won in straight sets to start out. Francis Tiafoe, the American, was down 2-0, but came back to win the next 3 sets and saves his tournament in the first round, as he is the 29th seed. 19th seed Nicholas Jarry did lose in 3 sets, straight sets, to Denis Shapovalov. He's had a great career and probably coming back from injury. He's not seeded right now. And Sebastian Baez was beaten by unseeded American Brandon Nakashima in straight sets. So there's an American beating the 18th seed Sebastian Baez. Stan Wawrinka's not seeded, but he won in straight sets. Moving on, he's one that's had a great career as well. On the women's side, we have some finals. Maria Sakkari won in straight sets. Jasmine Paolini won in straight sets. They're the 9 and 7 seeds respectively. See if there's anything big that's happened on the women's side. Doesn't appear to be any big major upsets yet there. So we do have Madison Keys competing today. Jing Qinwen on the women's side. And also on the men's side, I'm looking at some of the top-seeded players. Carlos Alcaraz is about to finish off a 3-set win over Mark Lehal. And Alcaraz, the number 3 seed. And he's the only other top 10 seed playing today. 12 seed Tommy Paul from the U.S. is set to start at 10 o'clock here this morning with his match. So Wimbledon underway. We'll update you on that over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully have a... Man, could we get a U.S. champion at Wimbledon? That would be awesome if we could do that. On the men's side, your best opportunity for a U.S. champion... Taylor Fritz probably, or Tommy Paul that I just mentioned. I think I said Tommy. Yeah, Tommy Paul. I'm like, for some reason I had Chris Paul on my mind from earlier. I was like, it's Tommy, right? And so, that's Wimbledon underway as well. Don't spend a lot of time on the WNBA, but Caitlin Clark is continuing to improve as she goes on. And Clark led Indiana to an 88-82 win, and was one. Here, let me look at the box score. She almost had a triple-double. I need a link to the box score. There's a sellout crowd of 17,071 at the Footprint Center in Phoenix. The Fever actually fell behind 17-4 to open the game, trailed by 11 at halftime, down by as many as 15 in the second half. But Caitlin Clark was able to lead the team back and deliver a win, as they won for the first time for her first game in Phoenix, and she was just off of a triple-double in the game. And for some reason, that story doesn't have the numbers that Caitlin Clark had. It's like, what are you writing a story and forgetting to put the numbers in? Caitlin Clark finished in that game with 15 points, 12 assists, and 9 rebounds. Just 1 rebound away from the first rookie, I think, to ever record a triple-double in the WNBA. But, one of the things about the Fever, too, is Leah Boston, I've said this, needs to play better, and she's obviously improved as the season's gone on. She had a tough start, but she's now averaging 13 points and 8.5 rebounds for the Fever. And the Fever are 8-12. They started very, very poorly. And what did we say? It's going to take. They're a very young team that lost a lot of games last year. There was a reason that they had the number 1 pick in the draft. It wasn't because they were the absolute worst team, I don't think, because it was they do a draft lottery, and Indiana ended up getting that pick. And they were able to get Leah Boston last year and then Caitlin Clark this year. And it's like, yeah, it's going to take a bit for chemistry to develop and for these teams, or for these players to understand each other, because they're all very young too. Like the most talented players on this team are very young. Katie Lou Samuelson's coming back from giving birth last year, and so has to get herself back into basketball playing shape and be part of this. So there's a lot of things and factors that went into that, but it's like, yeah, it's going to take some time. The Fever aren't, and Caitlin Clark aren't just going to come out here and be dominant right away. Diana Taurasi had 17 or 19 points, and obviously Diana Taurasi was one of the people that was supposedly very, very critical of Caitlin Clark, and it probably was the tone of voice that she said it in, not necessarily what she said, but basically paraphrasing said she's going to be in for an awakening or a rude awakening or whatever it is. She's she's going to find out that it's different at this level, basically, is how you paraphrase that. And so then everybody that's a Caitlin Clark stan, or what people don't know what stan means, just another way to say fanatical, a fan of somebody. If you know the song "Stan" by Eminem, that's where it started. If you don't, look it up. I love the word "stan" this day and age, and people probably don't even know the original "stan." Anyway, so Diana Taurasi's comments got all them people fired up that are just backing Caitlin Clark, and then she's been getting some wrath from people that probably is unwarranted just because she made a statement and said what was true, that it's going to be tougher for Caitlin Clark, and it has proved to be that. She has not been perfect. She had another 6 turnovers yesterday. She has brought those down. It hasn't been quite as bad as it was early in the season, but she is still averaging 5.5 turnovers a game, which is a bit too high for a guard on a team that's trying to win at the professional level. So again, that's still something that she'll have to work on. If you look at her game logs, it's kind of crazy to look at the amount of turnovers that she does have. I was saying that she's actually gotten better at that, but I don't know that she really has. 6-6-5-7, 6-5-7. The last games here since June 13th, those are the amount of turnovers that she's had 3 turnovers or less 5 times in 20 games. So yeah, it's a problem, and she's learning, and she will learn and get better. I don't think she's going to be a career 5.5 turnover type player. So just want to point that part out. But Caitlin Clark was just shy of a triple-double yesterday. I did want to bring that up. Again, I don't talk about Caitlin Clark all the time. We won't continue to just bury that. And there's enough talk out there about Caitlin Clark and the narratives and the discourse about WNBA basketball right now being this side or that side. You need to treat Caitlin better. They're fine. They're just playing and playing big girl ball or whatever that is. It's a woman's game or whatever you want to say about it. I'm not going to get into all that probably at all anymore about Caitlin Clark, but didn't want to note that she was almost the first rookie ever to get a triple-double, 15 points, 12 assists, 9 rebounds, and led her team to a comeback win, a 29-15 third quarter that helped them win 88-82 over the Mercury in Phoenix, and Phoenix is now 9-9 there in the WNBA as far as the standings are concerned. It was a hot start for the Connecticut Sun, but they are 14-4. They're 6-4 of the last 10, so it was a little bit interesting there. The Las Vegas Aces, 2-time defending champions, are 10-6. New York Liberty have the best record in the WNBA at 16-3, if anybody wants to know that. That'll wrap it up on the Sports Ticket today. Again, the Royals playing good baseball right now. They'll be back at it coming up tomorrow. They have tonight off. We'll keep you up to date on how the Royals and everybody's doing here on the Sports Ticket. So I'm glad to have everybody tuning in today on this Monday, July 1st. Have a great day. Happy July. We'll talk to you again tomorrow here on Katy Country 94 and Waterside Wake Up.
State, regional, and national sports talk on your schedule. The Sports Ticket Podcast. Subscribe via Apple, Google, and TuneIn Podcasts or sunflowerstateradio.com.